If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 30 of the Fitness Mama podcast, which is all about hypnobirthing for a Caesarean birth. So if you are about to have a baby, stick around. I'm your host, Kath Bequee. I'm a mum of 3 young girls, a physiotherapist for women, and I have an online community, Fitness Mama, which helps to provide pregnant and new mothers with the exercises, support and resources they need to move from the overwhelm, the physical aches and pains of pregnancy, the weakness felt after birth, and instead we replace that with the comfort and confidence they need to get their bodies and minds strong again, so that they can get back to doing what they love with a bubba by their side, whether or not that's running around with the kids at the park or running the next marathon. So in today's episode, I chat with the lovely Vanessa Bernard about hypnobirthing for a Caesarean birth. We all know that sometimes childbirth doesn't go according to plan, and whether or not you have a planned Caesarean or an emergency Caesarean, I think it can be really empowering for all pregnant women to understand techniques that can be used to really help you have a positive birth experience, no matter what sort of birth you end up having. So in today's conversation, we discuss some key ways hypnobirthing techniques can be helpful if you are having a planned or an emergency Caesarean birth. These are practical tips. They are easy to implement. They are simple, so get out your pen and paper because you're going to want to jot down some of what Vanessa talks about. But before we do jump into this episode, I do just want to let you know about the 7-day free trial that's available for Fitness Mama. In this 7-day trial, you'll be able to try one of our weekly live Pilates classes. You can do as many on-demand classes as you'd like. You can binge listen to guest expert speakers discussing topics including hypnobirthing, induction, mindset, and more. And there are also heaps of Q&A sessions with myself on all sorts of topics such as abdominal muscle separation, pregnancy-related pelvic girdle pain, Caesarean scar massage, mastitis, and more. So all you need to do is head to www.fitnessmama.com/free. That's fitnessmama.com/free. Right, let's get into the show. Hello, Vanessa. Welcome to the Fitness Mama podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you on. This has been in the making for months, so it is super exciting to chat today. So I've just been mentioning in the intro that we're going to chat all things hypnobirthing for Caesarean births. So it's a very exciting topic, especially given that this month is Caesarean Awareness Month. So to start off with, could you please introduce yourself to everyone listening today?
Sure. So my name's Vanessa and I am a mum of 2 beautiful little boys. I'm also the owner of Ilora Birth and I'm a certified Hypnobirthing Australia practitioner. And so I teach the Positive Birth program and also teach the Positive Caesarean program as well. And then on top of that, I teach some newborn essential classes online as well. So for all expecting parents, we go through the first 3 months with their beautiful little babies.
Fantastic. And what's your background, Vanessa?
I am a pediatric nurse. I've been a pediatric nurse now for the last 10 years. And for me, I guess moving into teaching hypnobirthing and childbirth and newborn education really started, I guess, after the birth of my first boy. It really sparked that passion. I did hypnobirthing myself, and I just remember coming out of that birth feeling really empowered and just really wanting to share this information and prepare other couples for a really beautiful positive birth, no matter how their baby comes into the world.
Yeah, that's great. You did a lovely session for my members, which is still available inside the Member Hub, on all things hypnobirthing for preparing. Well, we discussed so much, didn't we? But today we're going to take on a bit of a different slant. And I have to admit, when I first chatted to you all those months ago for the membership, it was a real light bulb moment in, I guess, the power of hypnobirthing. And the more I find out about it, the more I'm becoming in love with it all. So it's great to chat today. So we're chatting hypnobirthing for Caesarean deliveries. So let's start at the top. Like, what do you teach when it comes to hypnobirthing and Caesareans?
Yeah, so at Hypnobirthing Australia, we have a specific course that is designed for women and their partners preparing for a Caesarean birth. So we know that all births can be a bit unpredictable, and you can have changing circumstances occur leading up to your birth or even during your labour, whereby it may be best for the safety of you and your baby to have a Caesarean birth. And so we have one specifically for women who are planning, and that is a short course where we go through equipping women with the knowledge, the tools, the support, and also the preparation to go forward and have a really beautiful and calm Caesarean birth. Often, women describe their Caesarean births as being a bit sort of disconnected, and that there was nothing out there for them to prepare for it. And I really enjoy teaching this course because it really covers everything. We cover before the Caesarean birth, we cover during, we cover all the recovery aspects, and then right into your postpartum as well, so that you feel ready, and also so that your partner can be that real advocate and support throughout the journey as well.
That's amazing, because I do feel perhaps in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there has been a lot of focus on preparing for vaginal birth and the recovery after vaginal birth. And thank goodness I feel there's more shift now for helping women prepare for all outcomes of birth, including planned and emergency Caesareans.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, I think, in our rates in Australia, we have 1 in 4 women who have a Caesarean birth. So it just seems really fitting to have a program out there to prepare women for it, because really there isn't nothing out there. Before this program, you were just using the internet and you were going off other women's experiences. So this really gives couples all those fundamental tools and really equips them with the knowledge so that they can make those really powerful and really informed decisions, so that they come out of that birth feeling really positive, and that it was not that sort of disconnect that women often describe as Caesarean as being.
In your hypnobirthing course, is there anything for emergency Caesarean? Because you just talked about that's for a planned Caesarean. What about for an emergency Caesarean?
Yeah, so in our positive birth program, we do cover the base that what if interventions are to occur, or you have a change in circumstance whereby your natural birth that you are planning, you're labouring away, if things take a bit of a turn and it's best for you and baby to go on and have that emergency Caesarean, you have all those tools in place to keep yourself calm and relaxed throughout it, but also you've got that knowledge behind you so that you can ask those questions along the way, and so that you feel like you're the driver in your birth and not the passenger, which I think is a really big thing for all couples going in.
Yeah. The empowerment.
Absolutely.
So what would be your top tip, I guess, for how hypnobirthing can be useful for a Caesarean?
Yeah, so for a Caesarean birth, I always base it off, a really good recipe for a birth. One of those tips would be education. We know that knowledge is power in all circumstances. So whether you're going for a natural birth or you're having a planned Caesarean, or you end up having that emergency Caesarean, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better. And I really like that notion that you don't know what you don't know, and you won't know what you're asking for if you don't know what to ask. So we know that Caesarean births can be a really positive experience, and it can be a really empowering experience. And the way that you can have that experience is by gaining as much knowledge as possible. So the knowledge of what's going to happen before the birth, what will happen when you're having that spinal, what happens in theatre, how many people are going to be in the theatre. These are things that can keep you calm and relaxed. And also, what are some of the things that you can ask your care provider as well, so that you can have the best birth possible. And a lot of people don't realise that there are lots of options when it comes to a cesarean birth. You know, things like delayed cord clamping and skin to skin, things that you naturally get with that vaginal birth. You can also have that in a cesarean birth as well. Other things of asking the care provider whether your baby can have a slow delivery or a more family-centered delivery. You know, there's care providers out there now who, I guess, making that shift and that change and making it a more personal experience and offering maternal assisted, parental assisted. It just, you know, it just sort of keeps getting better and better, really.
Yeah. One of my members did a maternal assisted cesarean delivery. So you'll have to search, if you're watching this, search for one of the previous episodes on the Fitness Mama podcast, the Spilling the Milk with Claire. And she describes the most gorgeous experience that she had doing maternal assisted cesarean. She thought it couldn't be better. It was a really positive, empowering experience for her.
Yeah, and I think it really gives the parents that connection with their baby as well. You know, you're holding your baby, you're bringing your baby from your womb straight to your chest. You can do that beautiful delayed cord clamping, skin to skin, and you're not having that hormonal gap in between as well, because you've got so much oxytocin flowing during that moment, which is great for both you and your baby.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
The hormonal gap?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a woman goes into natural labour, her body produces and releases this amazing cocktail of hormones, and this gets her ready and her baby ready for that transition after birth. With a cesarean birth, and in particular with a woman who hasn't laboured before, so we're talking elective cesareans, is that hormonal gap can occur where you don't have that cocktail of hormones releasing in the body. And so with the cesarean birth preparation, we focus on different tools that you can use to help release those hormones so that we can close that gap. And part of doing that is through, you know, releasing your oxytocin through light touch massage. So where your partner is applying these techniques to you prior to the cesarean birth and also during.
Like shoulder massage or something when you're lying down?
Yeah, shoulder massage across the forehead, just a really nice head massage as well.
Yeah, they've got to love a head massage.
So all of these techniques to help just release those feel-good hormones, so that those endorphins and also your oxytocin, initiating breastfeeding nice and early in recovery, and also that skin to skin straight away, which we know produces and releases that oxytocin. So these are all things that help close that hormonal gap, and it gives you that real beautiful connection to your birth and also to your baby.
Yep, amazing. So you just said about, how many things did you just say then? The only thing
Probably
that stuck
too many.
with me was the head massage. It's the only thing I can remember. But you talked about skin to skin, breastfeeding, massage, turning the lights off as well. Would that be helpful if we can dim the lights as much as possible in theatre? I know that's not always possible, but...
Yeah, absolutely. And some care providers will be on board with all of this in turning the lights down. And it's really about having those discussions with your care provider before your birth. But certainly dimming the lights down, I mean, that is going to help that release of all those hormones, but it's also nice for baby as well. You know, baby comes out into a really nice, beautiful, calming environment where there's no big bright lights and there's no big loud noises.
Beautiful. This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months, yes, that's 9 months, they also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply. So that was the first top tip. I love it. Education, being empowered, knowing what you can ask for. And setting up the environment is pretty much everything you just said, right? Well, what's the second one, Vanessa?
The second one is supportive care. So that comes down to the care with your partner. So making sure that your partner's on board with everything and really sitting down together and preparing for the birth together, because it's their birth just as much as it is the woman's birth. They're part of the experience. So really, sitting down and just nutting out, what do you want for your birth and what is going to make it a positive experience for you all? These are things that we really focus on. I'm a really big advocate for partners being really hands-on and just really involved in any birth. And the other one, when it comes down to supportive care, is your caregiver. So making sure that you've got a really supportive caregiver who wants you to have that positive experience and is willing to allow you to do the dimming of the lights, the music playing, the skin to skin and the delayed cord clamping. And it's really important that if you don't feel supported by your care provider, knowing that there are other options out there for you. You can get a second opinion. You can ask for another care provider if you don't feel supported. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realise they have that option.
And it's great that you do involve the partners so much too. As we said before, so often the focus is on the woman and her experience. So that's lovely.
Yeah. And I think we sometimes forget too that it can be quite an overwhelming experience for the partners as well. So preparation from their point is really important in them understanding what's happening, just so that they can feel like, it's not a really sort of big, overwhelming experience for them. They know what questions to ask the care provider and they know how they can support their partner throughout the entire process.
Yeah, beautiful. We talked about education, asking questions, setting up the environment, talking through all the options with your care provider and making sure you feel like it's the right one for you. They're all really great tips.
So my third tip is tools to stay, one, focused and calm, but also relaxed throughout the entire process. And you'll learn a whole range of tools. And even if you don't decide to do a course specifically on caesarean birth, these are things that you can start implementing yourself. So that includes that light touch massage that we discussed earlier on. So the head massage, the shoulder massage, and the face massage as well. These are things that are going to release those beautiful endorphins and also keep you nice and connected to your partner as well. So you'll get the oxytocin release. Other things include acupressure. So, we use this to help with pain relief after birth. We use it to help with any nausea that you might experience, any anxiety as well, but also to help with breastfeeding when that is initiated after the birth.
Oh, so is this acupressure something your partner could give to you once they've learned the acupressure points?
Yeah, so you can do the acupressure points yourself whilst you're waiting, but, throughout the procedure and then in the recovery phase, it's something where your partner can apply these techniques to. And they're really simple, easy techniques, but really effective techniques as well.
Is there an easy one that you can describe on the podcast?
Oh, I guess the one that we could go through would be one where you can calm the mind down. So this is if you're experiencing any anxiety and you just really want to calm that sort of chatter in your mind. And we use this one. It's really hard to describe if I don't have the pictures and showing you the technique, but we use the foot. So we base it on the foot, and there's a certain point on your foot where you just simply press down for that 1 to 2 minutes. So this is when one that partners could do, because it can be a little bit hard for mum to reach down, particularly after birth or even before when she's got a nice, big, beautiful belly. So partners can apply these techniques, and it's really simple. You apply this, nice sort of firm pressure for 1 to 2 minutes until you get that desired effect. And it really comes down to that traditional Chinese medicine as well. So very similar to acupuncture, but you're just using your fingers.
Is this near the toes on that ball of your foot?
Yeah. So on the ball of your foot. So it's kind of like the crease. So if you were to sort of curl your foot inwards.
I've got my shoe off right now. I'm doing it.
I'm actually sitting here doing it myself as well.
I might use it tonight because I'm reading a really good book at the moment and I can't put it down. And then when I try to go to sleep, I just keep, I'm exhausted, but I can't stop myself reading. And then when I put the book down, I keep thinking about the book. And so I've been just, it's terrible. I need to finish this book so I can get back to some sleep.
Well, simply where that little crease is, if you just pop your thumb, then you press down and move up towards your big toe. And you're just holding that there for 1 to 2 minutes. You can even hold it a little bit longer if you want to. And ideally do it on both feet at the same time, but you can alternate if it's easier.
So you're talking about underneath your big toe where that big padding is? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, you've described it really well. So what feels like that big pad, so on the ball of your foot. So we look at that big pad, and if you were to sort of curl your foot up a little bit, you'll get that sort of that middle point. And we're pressing down there and then up towards your big toe. It's a really nice one. Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay. So both of them at the same time to help calm your mind.
Yeah, calm that mind down to keep you nice and relaxed. Some other techniques and tools that you can use as well in theatre is playing your music. So research has actually shown that women who listen to music prior to going into their C-section had significant levels of relaxation, and it also helped reduce their systolic blood pressure too. So music is a really great one, and that can just be any music you want to listen to. So whatever keeps you nice and calm or just relaxes you. So it doesn't have to be relaxing music, it could be pop music or whatever you like to listen to.
I love all these tips that you're giving. They're all quite simple and easy to implement. So there's nothing fancy that you're telling us today. That's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And really there isn't anything sort of super fancy to it. It's all about keeping things nice and simple. So it's easy for yourself, but easy for your partner to remember.
Great. Music, some acupressure points.
Yeah. Some massage. We can use some breathing techniques. So we use a relaxation breath. So ultimately what we're trying to do when we're using these tools is we want to lower the stressor hormones. So we want to stop that fight or flight response from being activated and keep you in that nice rest and digest state.
Love a good belly breath, deep breathing.
Yes.
Get those rib cage expanding. It's great for pelvic floor relaxation too.
It's amazing.
Good for anxiety, good for stress. It's great.
Such a lifelong tool,
Absolutely.
The relaxation breath, isn't it?
Yeah. And also you'll use it more as your babies grow up and you've got the tantrums happening.
Oh, absolutely. I find myself using it frequently.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
And my kids say, watch out, Mum's doing her deep breathing. She's annoyed.
I'm actually in the process of teaching my 3-year-old how to do it.
Oh, love it. Let us know how you go with that.
We're getting there slowly. And I guess one last tip that I'd really like to focus on is preparation. So we know that preparation leads to smoother transitions, and that accounts, with everything, but really putting in that preparation, and ways in which you can do this is practicing all of your relaxation techniques. So not just doing them on the day, we want to practice them in the months and weeks leading up so that you can easily implement them on the day. And another really big one that I'm a fan of is writing some birth preferences. So we often write birth preferences for if we're wanting to achieve that natural birth, but we don't necessarily think about writing preferences for a Caesarean birth. And this just gives you and your partner, you're just popping down what you want on a piece of paper that's going to give you a really calm, relaxed, and positive birth experience. And it really gives your care providers a guide as to how they can achieve that for you as well.
Yeah, brilliant. What you just said then made me think about preparation for the afterbirth period too. So I find there's so much focus on the birth, but there's some key things that we could be doing if you're having a Caesarean birth or a vaginal birth that can really help you feel confident or more relaxed and perhaps a bit more prepared once you go home with your baby. So thinking about how are we going to cook and eat for the next 6 weeks? How are we going to get out and about? I can't drive, so brainstorming those sorts of things as well can really help you feel more prepared before you have your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I really love teaching about in the Caesarean course is that preparation after birth, because you're right, we do put so much focus on the birth, but it's really, really important to also focus on your recovery. And we know with having a Caesarean, it's major abdominal surgery and you need to be able to rest after that birth. So having a plan in place in terms of your breastfeeding and, how you're going to hold your baby, but also, as you've mentioned, that mobility as well. So really making sure that you're resting and not overdoing it, because we're so used to just wanting to jump back into where we picked off and we think we can do everything.
And I think particularly if it's your first, everyone's so busy, they might be working full time when they're pregnant with their first. So it's a really big adjustment to suddenly doing nothing. And I think it can sometimes, that adjustment. I know it took me by surprise and it was a bit of a shock to the system. But so important if you can adjust to that. Your body will thank you for it. Probably your body and mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important too when we're talking about that preparation after birth that partners are really aware of this and they're really involved with it because they really play that really sort of key fundamental role as well.
Exactly. And physically as well, if your partner can be aware that, hopefully you won't be vacuuming in those first 6 weeks and taking wet washing that weighs a lot. So if they can be aware to help with all that. And we haven't even mentioned if you have a toddler. This is something for vaginal and caesarean births. I always recommend if you can get into the habit of not lifting your toddler when you're still pregnant. I think it makes those first 6 weeks a lot nicer rather than suddenly coming home with a newborn baby and then saying to your toddler, sorry, honey, I can't lift you anymore. So if both you and your partner can get on board with some different strategies rather than just lifting your toddler. So whether or not that's steps around the house, the change table or in and out the bath, having a cuddle sitting down instead of standing up, those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the best advice for me, actually. I loved that advice when I was pregnant with my second. It might have been yourself, Kath, actually.
I remember you telling me you had pelvic girdle pain, and I remember saying, gotta stop lifting.
Yeah. Got to stop lifting.
Which is so hard. If you've got a toddler, it's impossible, right? And there will be times when you can't lift, right? You're in a supermarket and they throw themselves on the floor. Like sometimes you just have to lift. But if you can reduce how much you're lifting, even by 50% or 70%, your body will thank you for it, both during pregnancy and after birth.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing. Was that it?
Yeah.
Have we covered everything on your list?
I think we have. We've covered a lot of information, haven't we?
We had. I hope everyone had their pen and paper because we might have to listen to it again because you gave some little nuggets of gold which are simple and they're easy to forget and overlook, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
You actually need to write them down and consider how am I going to apply this to me?
Yeah, and I think the important message to take out is that if you do have a change in circumstances, you can have a really beautiful, positive caesarean birth. There are so many options out there for you. And just keep it really simple, but just think about those things that, are going to help promote all of those beautiful hormones and promote that connection with your baby.
Lovely. Well, Vanessa, I think that's a perfect way to finish off this podcast. So thank you. And for those who are listening that want to find out more about you, how and where can they find you?
Yep. So I'm predominantly on Instagram. So you'll find me at Hypnobirth. So that's with an I. Otherwise, you've got me on my website, which is www.elorabirth.com.au. And I'm based in Melbourne, but I also teach online as well.
Perfect. And I'll have all those links in the show notes too. So thank you so much for Vanessa for joining me today. I do appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for inviting me on here. I'm so glad I've finally been able to make it.
Amazing. Okay, we'll chat soon. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.
And before I sign off, remember, my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links at fitnessmama.com/podcast, including how to access the 7-day free trial. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Let me know your main key takeaway about hypnobirthing for a caesarean birth. Send me a DM at fitnessmama on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. So have a fabulous day, everyone. And I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.